Hello and welcome to a special edition of the Weighing Podcast, where today we'll be going through some of the main races across the 5 days of Royal Ascot from an Ante-Post perspective, with now only 1 week to go till the best flat meeting of the season. As ever, I'm joined by the weighing room team of Frankie Foster and Paul Callaghan to get stuck into the action at the Berkshire track. Lads, are we excited for next week?
I am, yes. I've got square eyes. My laptop's broke, so I've been through the cards and watching race replays on my phone. Staring at it like that for the last few hours. But yeah, I can't wait for last week. I haven't actually done much of Ascot. I have been before, but I haven't done, I've never done a full week, or I've never done a couple of days sprints. I've only ever done one. So I'm hoping to get up there for a few.
Yeah, it'd be nice. And Paul, you're doing it from a bit of a different location today. Where are you?
It's north of Laytown, in a place called Clogherhead. It's a glorious afternoon here. So yeah, I was in the locality this morning, so I thought wouldn't have been that tight to get home, but the weather was too nice to pass. So yeah, I done a lot of the studying by the beach this morning, so it's lovely.
Well, it's all right, isn't it? It's all right, son. We've plenty to get through, lads. We'll crack on. The first race we're going to discuss of the week is the Group 1 Queen and Stakes. Looks a cracking event this year, but we have got a 1 to 3 favourite at the top of the market with Baid, who is a bit of a superstar, arguably the best miler in the world. You've got Master of the Seas 10 to 1, Aldari 10 to 1, Real World around 12 to 1, about 16 to 1 bar. Frankie, we'll start with you. Is this one that's going to go straight to the punters if they want to get on 1 to 3? Probably could be shorter by the off if runners come out.
I think so, yeah. There's not much to discuss beyond what you said. Baid is probably the best miler in the world, and I think it is as straightforward as that. The way that Baid won at Newbury, just so easily. And speaking to Jim Crowley after, and I asked him that question: would this horse be beat this year? And I think everybody was in the same boat, that it's unlikely, and it would take a mishap or a horse to drastically improve to get past Baid. I do think right now that, like you said, Baid is probably the best miler in the world and deserving of that 1 to 3. So there was not a price to back. I couldn't see it beat.
No, I'm in the same camp here. So, 7 races in a row now. Triple Group 1 winner. Has already run over the course and distance, won over the course and distance at Ascot when beating Pallisphere, who was the best miler at that point. It's going to take something very special, wouldn't you say, Paul, to go and beat Baid?
Yeah, I think so. I think, as Frankie mentioned, what Jim had said, bar disaster, Baid wins, and probably a case of how far. If one was to have a bet, possibly Chinned Price finished 5th in the St James's Palace last year, was 3rd behind Baid in the Lochran, was beaten, give or take, little over 4 lengths. Chinned might just sneak a place at a bit of a price if you had to have a bet, but by all means, Baid is the bar disaster.
Yeah, I do think that the way to probably play this race, unless you want to put Baid in your multiples, is try and have a go without the favourite on each way price. But at this moment in time, you can only see the field getting shorter and Baid getting even with that. So it's probably one to steer away from a punting perspective, unless you want to put it into your multiples. The next race we're going to cover is another cracking Group 1 on the first day, and it's the St James's Palace Stakes, over a mile. This race over the years seen some absolutely cracking winners of the race, and this year could see exactly the same. We have another shorty, about 8 to 15, 4 to 9 in the market, CROUP, who obviously went on and won the 2,000 guineas at the start of the season. Paul, we'll start with you. Is this another to put in the accumulators, or can he get beat?
I think you'd have to say so. You'd stick with the accumulators. He looked an absolute monster on his last couple of starts, including in the Guineas. Again, if he turns up, he takes beating. One that is interesting is Maljum, who's 3 from 3, won the German 2,000 Guineas last time out, having been slow away from the stalls. And I think if he lines up, I think he'll run a big race. Maljum at a bit of a price, but by all known form, Caribus is the one that have to beat.
Yeah, Maljum was that horse, wasn't he? Won the the German Guineas, and topped off an absolutely amazing week for William Agnes. He's got another in here, the second favourite, Frankie. I'm not sure if you looked at this, I put away from Caribus, but My Prospero is another at 5 to 1 that's had a bit of money around it at the moment, gone from 7s into 5s. Could My Prospero chuck it down to Caribus, do you think, Frankie, or is Caribus just go and win this?
Is there anything to say that Native Trail won't go here?
Well, all I've seen is money pumping for Caribus at this stage. Obviously, we're looking from an Ante-Post point of view, but native 13-2 at the moment. If it was running, I'd like to see it be a bit closer in the betting to Caribus, maybe.
Yeah,
but
see,
I'm not sure.
That's what makes me wonder. Like you said, the price. Is there something out there that's leaning towards Native Trail not running? But if it was, and you could nick 5-1, you get fifth of the odds for a place. Most places, I'd much rather back Native Trail each way, with I'd say a fairly strong chance of getting your money back with a place and chance of reversing the form with Caribus. A little bit more experienced for his Irish Guineas win. And not too far away from Caribus in the Guineas. So that would be my bet. If Native Trail did run and he was an each way price, I'd take the chance of money back, and maybe reversing the form would be how I'd look at it. I wouldn't be backing Caribus at 1-2 on, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's another shorty that could well go in, and you either got to go and put it in your accumulators, or you stay away, don't you? And it might be better looking from an each way point of view, again, like Paul has with Maljoom. So the final Group 1 on the Tuesday is the Kingston Stakes, a great race that's seen some really fast horses win over the year. And it's a very strange betting in the Ante-Post stage. You've got Golden Pal for Wesley Ward at 2-1. Wesley Ward's been talking this horse up for the last few years since he's been coming over to Ascot, and doesn't seem to run to the expected standard, but currently moved in from 5-2 into 2-1 at the top of the bet. You've got Nature Strip at 7-2, and then after that, next closest is A Case of You for Aidan McGuinness, 12-1. Romantic Proposal 12-1. Manor Promise 16-1, and 16-1 bar that. Frankie, we'll start with you on this one. Who are you going with?
I think 2-1 about Golden Pal is a price. If I'm honest, you know, for these sprints, these 5 furlong races, you want an out and out 5 furlong speedster, and that's exactly what Golden Pal is. The only hiccup you'd be worried about is York, but as we know, York's a bit of a funny track. That day I was with Graham Bradley, champion jockey, winner of a Gold Cup and many races, and on the way in got a shout from Frankie to say this will go and win. Frankie was very confident that day. As you said, trainer Wesley Ward's always been very confident, and I think maybe just a little bit of a hiccup, as I said, at York on what is a funny track, and just didn't go his way that day. And besides that, I know people will look at that and say, will he come back over to England and perform? Well, he's come second at Ascot very early in his season, and I think he's top class sprinter that should go and win this. And 2-1 for me looks a price.
Yeah, seriously fast horse. The probably only negative I have, and a lot of people won't look at it as a negative, is when a trainer comes out and he's that bullish. I think this horse has got to seriously go and win. But when you see it in the Nunthorpe, but it doesn't perform to the standard it has, and the same amount of bullish the trainer was, I might look elsewhere at 2-1. Paul, what's your thinking?
Yeah, I'm going to side with Frankie here, James. I think Golden Pal is the one they have to beat. I think his biggest danger is the ground. I think if soft appears in the going description, that would hinder his chances. But he was second in the Norfolk Stakes back in 2020, and if that was on good to soft, and if memory serves me correctly, was drawn on the wrong side, was drawn in the low numbers, where the ground favoured middle to high. So it did really well to finish second. As Frankie mentioned, disappointed at York. He's a 3-time winner since that. 2 victories at Keeneland. Was a winner at the Breeders' Cup. Won the Turf Sprint at Delmar last November. It's a cracking lineup. You have Nature Strip entered here for Chris Waller. A Case of You for Aidan McGuinness. Romantic Proposal for Eddie Lynham. But as you mentioned, I think 2-1 or bigger, if there's no soft in the going description, could well be a massive price for Golden Pal.
Yeah, look, I can see the case you both put forward to it. There's just something for me that I'd like to take on Golden Pal, but I don't know what with yet. That's the thing. I don't know what with yet.
I wonder, is it Wesley? I'm a huge Wesley Ward fan. I think he's definitely spiced Ascot up since he started coming across, but he is saying every year, I know he's talking up Golden Pal again. He spoke him up last year, and every year he comes over, he's like, this is the strongest team. And the first couple of years are going, wow, this must be something. And you're watching them winning over 4.5 furlongs at Keeneland during the winter or what have you. But maybe that's raising red flags for you.
That's what it is. I think that's exactly what it is. I think it's just every year you hear it's his best team and this is his best sprinter. And then when you see it flop in the Nunthorpe and stuff like that, you just think, how can I believe his word as much as I should do. And it might just be a thing personally for me, but I'd probably want to take on Golden Pal, but I just don't know what with. I don't know what with. That's the other issue. But look, it's a cracking race, and the market definitely favours Golden Pal, definitely around 2-1. So just briefly to wrap up day one. Sorry, we're going to look at the Coventry Stakes, and it's a cracking race every year that sees a lot of horses with a lot of potential that really go and show what they're about. Paul, we'll start with you on this one. Noble Star, top of the market, around 3-1. Persian Force, 4-1. Blackbeard, 4-1. It's a tight betting heat at the moment.
Yeah, this is wide open, obviously. A horse that I quite liked on debut was Bakil. He won over 5 furlongs at Ascot back in April, despite showing signs of inexperience. There was only 5 runners went to post. He does lack the big field experience, but Bakil he's obviously got an engine and might just run well at a price here if he takes his chance.
Yeah, currently 20-1 in the market. So yeah, it's a big price, isn't it, really, for a race like this? But this race has seen bigger prices go on to win. And as you say, it's very open. Frankie, who would you side with at this stage?
I'll be looking at Blackbeard, 3 from 3, and most recently stepped up from 5 furlongs to 6 furlongs and did it quite nicely. So for that evidence, most recent over 6. I quite like the way he won that day, and I'd be willing to stick with him again.
Yeah, definitely got a good chance. Like I mentioned at the start, Persian Force done absolutely nothing wrong both its runs so far, and Noble Styles had the form franked massively by a lot of horses, so you can see why they're at the top of the market. And there's a lot of horses in here that could go on to be very special. But again, we'll just have to see what lines up on the day, and there could be some cracking horses in that field. So day 2 looks another good day of action, and the first race we're going to cover is the Group 2 Queen's Vase. Seen some nice winners pass. Paul, talk us through your thoughts on this one.
I quite like Lionel, who I thought was good when getting the better of Aldous Huxley at good last time out. His 2 wins have come with plenty of foot on the ground, so is going to be a slight concern if there's no soft in the going description. Having said that, Lionel did run well to finish 3rd on his second start on good ground at Newbury, so he's of interest. And I was quite taken by the Aidan O'Brien train Martinstown on racecourse debut. I thought he quickened up nicely in the closing stages, hitting the line quite strong when scoring at Cork at the beginning of May. Now, Martinstown is entered later on in the week on the Friday, so I'd definitely be keeping an eye on which race he goes in. So Martinstown if he lines up Queen's Vase, but I'd be certainly expecting a big run from Lionel.
Yeah, the only problem might be with Lionel is if he wants to go for the Irish Derby instead, David. I know he has mentioned both and he hasn't made his mind up yet. He could go for either. He like when he stepped up in trip for that race at Goodwood that he'd want probably further because he got going bang on the line. Great ride by James Spencer, I thought. And I thought like the 1 mile 6 might absolutely suit him in this. Yeah, it's just if he goes. Frankie, who did you look at this one?
Well, we're looking at the Queen's Vase.
The Queen's Vase, yeah.
This was one I'd be happy to sit out of. I'm willing to wave the white flag on this one, if I'm honest. I had a quick look and skipped past this straight to the next 2, and the Duke of Cambridge is one I quite fancied winning. So yeah, I'll wave the white flag.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Don't have to go into everything. It's quite tricky at this stage. We'll move on to the Group 2 Duke of Cambridge then, Frankie, and we'll start with yourself. Looks a nice race for the fillies and mares. Who do you like then?
It does, yeah. Saffron Beach, I thought, stood out for me. She's performed really well over the last 3 races, and 2 of those in group races in fillies and mares company, and then a 4th over in Maydan, a race won by Lord North, obviously mixed sex race. Now coming back into fillies and mares company, back to the mile. There was an extra furlong over in Maydan. I think has every chance here. So yeah, Saffron Beach, I did quite like in this race.
Yeah, like you look at Alcohol Free 92 at the top of the market. I think she's worth taking on personally from her runs today. And Saffron Beach just behind her around 11-2. Definitely screams a bit of value, doesn't it? You've also got Lights On at 6-1. Mother Earth has been nibbled at slightly into 6-1 as well. Bash Karova that's obviously ran, came out and won. Some nice horses. Paul, who did you land on?
Yeah, one you mentioned certainly of interest, Lights On, who beat Mutasabek at Sand last time out. Sabila Spain is interesting, I think, from the Christopher Head stable. She's 4 from 8 in France. She won a Group 2 at St. Cloud last time out at the beginning of May, so she has to be, I suppose, probably taken seriously. But I quite like Pearls Galore, who's 2 from 2 this season. I think we'll have a big say if she lines up here. She won a Group 2 at the Curragh last time out. Prior to that, she was a good winner of a listed event over the mile, was it at Leopardstown the time before, on seasonal reappearance. Slight concern would be that she's 2 from 2 this season. Would have been too straight for both runs, leaving little to work on, or it'll be an interesting, well, it'll be a good bit of placing and training from the trainer if she can manage to make it 3 from 3 here.
Yeah, definitely. And what I do like about Pearls Galore is that I think she's underestimated again in the market because of who the trainer is compared to some of the trainers in the field, if you know what I mean. No disrespect to the trainer at all, but because he's not the biggest name in the world, you might get a better price on a horse like that. So, yeah, I think definitely got a big chance. It's just how much progression's left in the 5-year-olds against some of these younger horses like Saffron Beach and what is it, Bashkarova. So we'll have to see, but definitely in with a chance. So the big one on day 2 is the feature Group 1 Prince of Wales' Stakes. This sees a cracking field go to post this year from what we see at the moment. Paul, we'll start with you. Baybridge, top of the market. Does Baybridge go and win? Can he keep his unbeaten streak of 5 going?
Yeah, I think so. I think Shirar is interesting. Won the Shima Classic at Maidan and represents Japan here, adding a bit more spice into the mix. But I think around about the 5-4 mark at the minute, Baybridge was very impressive when winning the Brigadier Gerard last time out. And I think if turning up in the same form or anywhere near, I think 5-4 look a bit of value, I think.
Yeah, I'm absolutely on the same page here. I honestly think this is one of my favourite flat horses in training at the moment, Baybridge. Just how progressive he's been going in handicaps up to a mark of 105. I think he was up 15 pounds that day, went on to win again, had a bit of a break, came back, and the way he put Motterdaf away last time out, like on its first run of the season, I thought that was very, very impressive. His price shot in straight away, went 5-2. Now it's 11-8, 5-4. I think anything above even money is huge value for this horse because I could see it going on odds on personally. And this is talking about a horse in a field with Mishriff, State of Rest, Lord North. These are good horses if they turn up. Obviously, if they turn up, but these are really good horses. Frankie, are you on the same page as us?
I am really, yeah, for all you've said. The Japanese horse, as Paul said, spices things up a little bit. That Group 1 form, but over slightly further. Mishriff, some quality form to his name, but not always at Ascot. That puts me off. And yeah, Baybridge just looks so impressive on winning at Sandown. And again, trusting the man Jim Crowley in an interview with him, asking, what happened with him on Motterdaf. And he's just clear as day, said the race went to plan. Nothing went wrong for us. I was very happy with our horse's run. We just got beaten by a much, much better horse. And he was quite impressed by the way that Baybridge went past him. So on that evidence of the race that day, I'd be on side with the favourite too.
Yeah, I can only see Baybridge improving again. And he's getting very close to that material for me across the festival. I just think he's a bit of a freak of a horse personally. And the way Sir Michael Stout's going, obviously with Desert Crown running a cracker in the Derby, and a lot of horses running well this season, you'd like to think that Baybridge would go well again. We'll move on to the Thursday now, and we've got to start, haven't we, with the Gold Cup, probably the feature race of the week for many. Seen some absolutely cracking winners over the years. The market reads 72 Trushan, joint with Kyprios at 72. Stradivarius obviously won this numerous times in at 4-1. Scope's an interesting one, stepping up in trip at 8-1. Mojo Star for Richard Hannon at 12s. Princess Zoe at 12s. And then Broom in there at 16s. Frankie, we'll start with you. Looks an absolute cracker out, probably the top 5-6 at the moment at Ante-Post stage. Can Stradivarius do it again, or will it be Trushan's time if he gets the ground?
Yeah, if Trushan gets the ground, that's where I'd be looking. I'd be willing to take on Kyprios, although Aidan O'Brien probably be the one man to defy stats. Just off the stats in the Gold Cup, 17 of the last 20 had won over 2 miles on the flat. Lends itself to horses over 5 years old, and for all that this horse is improving, it does have to step up in trip. It is the young improving horse, but I'd be looking for a hardy stayer in Trushan rather than the kind of young up and coming horse. So obviously Trushan is ground dependent, but if they all line up, if the ground's in Trushan's favour, the horse is just a real tough stay. You know what you're getting, and I'd be willing to have a bet with Trushan.
Yeah, Trushan, this is at 72 at the moment. If you back 72 and you get soft ground, it's an unbelievable price. You back 72 and you get good ground, it's a dreadful price. It is really, isn't it? Because even though Trushan's gone and won it on good to soft, he's been took out of races numerous times now because Alan King's waiting for that bit of juice in the ground. He'll stay the trip, no problem. He's beat these previous, like Stradivarius, got the better of him last year. He's won at Ascot twice now, isn't it? In the what is it? The race at the end of the season, at Champions Day, the what's it called? Long Distance Cup. So yeah, there's no problem there. It is just literally the ground, and from an Ante-Post perspective,
you got to take your chances about 2 days out on the Tuesday, maybe, and try and beat the weatherman basically. If you leave it too late, then it'll shorten right up, won't it? But if you can beat the weatherman 1 or 2 days out, then that's how I'd play it.
I agree. I think that's the way to play it. Paul, are you of a similar opinion, or are you looking elsewhere in this race?
No, I think we fairly nailed it there. Like Stradivarius, Trushan, ground dependent. Erland Cotswolds worth a mention. I thought battled on gamely, likes the scrap. He won well on the all-weather Champions Day. He's won his last 3, and they were all on weather. If he can transfer that form onto grass, he might just run well at a little bit of a price. You got Rodrigo Diaz, a performer Spencer might be on, was second in a handicap on fat ground at Newbury last season. As I said, he does like to come from off the pace. If things panned out for him, he might just sneak a place at a bit of a price. But I think Stradivarius and ground dependent Trushan.
Yeah, like I said, I like Trushan. At 72, Kyprios, for like you said, Frankie, the stats are against him slightly, but at a bigger price. I think he was 10s, 14s, and now into 72. 10s or 14s, you wouldn't be a bad shot away. He's run this season. But for me, scope at 8-1's interesting if he goes to this race. I thought the way it came back, giving weight away last time to Arab, and now going up in trip, will handle soft, will handle good. He's probably the safest bet, I think, from an each way perspective at the moment. And I think at 8-1's a bit of juice left in him. The next one on Thursday we're going to have a look at is the Group 2 Ribblesdale Stakes. And this is a race for me that I think could cut up massively. Paul, would you say the same?
Yeah, I think so. I do. And one that I tipped up last time out I'm going to stick with is Magical Lagoon, who was a bit unfortunate to be on the wrong side of a photo finish at Navan. But Magical Lagoon won a Group 3 at the Curragh last season, did find life a little tough in Group and Company at Newmarket last October. She'll probably need to improve a bit to win this, but if the race cuts up, I think she'll run well for the Harrington team. So I think Magical Lagoon for me.
Okay, Frankie, who are you on in the Ribblesdale?
Yeah, likewise. Magical Lagoon as well. 7th in the Fillies Mile at Newmarket, in the race where you had the first and second in the Guineas that day. And when stepped up to 1 mile 2 second behind Concert Hall, who just finished 4th in the Oaks. So some good back form there. And I'd be in agreement with Paul. Magical Lagoon for me as well. I'm trying to see what around 8-1 at current. So yeah, just some solid form in the books and looks to improve for that slight step again here.
Yeah, what I will say about this race, I actually backed Sea Silk Road at 8-1. It's probably the best position I've got going into Ascot. Currently around 10-3, 3-1. Would I back her now at 3-1? I'm still unsure, but at 8-1, I'm happy to be in that position, definitely, because I just think the race will cut up even more than it's had. The only worry I do slightly have is from the way Emily Upjohn ran in the Oaks, is there still unfinished business with that horse because he slipped at the start? Do they want to turn it out quicker than probably they might have done just to get her back in on winning ways? That's my worry. That's my worry with that horse. Because if that goes in the race, I think Emily Upjohn's got a cracking chance, but we'll have to see whether that turns up. Next race we're going to talk about is the Group 2 Norfolk Stakes. Always a tricky race to work out, and I would rather be sat presenting than in your shoes at the moment going through this race. It's always a toughie. Frankie, we'll start with you on this one. You got a strong opinion?
No, not really. I'd be hoping the favourite of the Coventry stuck with 5 furlongs, Noble Style, and ran in this, that would be where I was looking. No, I don't really. I mean, these races are impossible off of what we know so far, and this far out as well. So yeah, I wouldn't really have anything to flag up at this current moment.
Paul, have you got an opinion on this one?
Yeah, I wouldn't have at this stage, James. I wouldn't have a solid selection. I suppose the one that did stick out slightly is the Clive Cox train, Kasib, who was a beaten favourite over 6 furlongs at Goodwood last time out. That was on good to soft ground. He opened up his accounts on quick ground over 5 furlongs at Salisbury. I think the drop back to 5 here will suit, as will the anticipated drier underfoot conditions.
Yeah, very much like the Coventry. It's one of them where you probably got to have a good go at this when the decks are out, and you can read more into what's going on. But it's a lot of progressive horses. They're all taking each other on. Yeah, it's always a tough race every year, but we've had to have a look for it. So, right, we'll now move on to the penultimate day at Royal Ascot. See some outstanding Group 1s once again. And the first one we're going to cover this time is the Coronation Stakes. And Paul, one of your favourites in here, ahead of the market, 5-4 Homeless Songs. Obviously, you put a big shout out for that when it went on to win the 1,000 guineas. Are you sticking with her, or are you going to look away? There is Inspiral, there's Cashit as well. Some really good horses, but are you going with Homeless Songs?
Yeah, I think so. I'd be shocked if it doesn't go off a shade of odds on if she lines up here.
Yeah, I agree.
Dermot Wells' Royal Ascot record is incredible as well. 11-10 I'm seeing here at the minute, I think is a great price. If she's 11-10 come Friday afternoon, I'd be happy enough with that. Elsewhere, Spenderella of Graham Motions is interesting. 3 from 3 in America. Should stay. Has won over a mile and 1 mile half furlong, 8.5 furlongs in America. So Spinderella be interesting. And Magustine, horse in France, 3 from 4 in France. Won a Group 1 at Longchamp last time out and might run well at a bit of a price. Quick ground to be an unknown. Hasn't run an Anthem, I think, quicker than good to soft. But an all-known form, Homeless Songs is the one that they all have to beat.
Yeah, I think this could be one of the most excited races of the week, really, from a point of view where we've got some really smart horses in there, and it's just the Inspiral angle for me. Inspiral was head of the market for the 1,000 guineas for a long time. Obviously, didn't run. We've seen what Homeless Songs can do, and we've seen what Cashette can do. Even you look down, it doesn't look like Tuesday or Run here now stepping up in trip. But Discoveries was talked about a lot in Ireland before her run as well. Maybe she can come back to a bit of form, but it just looks a fascinating race to me. Frankie, are you with Homeless Songs as well, or are you going elsewhere?
I am, yeah. She just looks class act, and to have Tuesday Concert Hall in behind her over at the Curragh. They've obviously stepped up in trip, but top class horses that she's mixing with. And I think the thing that stood out for me is just the way she quickens. So there's all sorts of horses going, down from a mile but over this 7 furlong, the way that Homeless Songs quicken when winning the Irish Guineas, I think that stood out most for me. So yeah, I'll be sticking with the Fab. And like Paul said, 5-4 now will probably be odds on the day.
Yeah, completely agree with you both. I think Homeless Songs very tough to beat. I think the way Dermot Weld treated her in the start, where she was going to the English 1,000 and the French 1,000, and then went to the Irish 1,000. It's probably one of the performances of the season so far, would you say, from a filly? And you can only go and see her going on to do what she did again. But again, Inspiral, a bit of an unknown factor this season. We only know what she did as a 2-year-old. It could be very interesting if she can get to the best of her ability as a 3-year-old, but we'll have to wait and see on that. So another race on the Friday everyone looks forward to is the Group 1 Commonwealth Cup. Always a big field, very exciting, very fast. Frankie, we'll start with you. Who have you nailed down as a bit of value in here, would you say?
Yeah, well, I'm a fan of Perfect Power, but I'm going to move away from that horse for once.
I thought you nailed on for Perfect Power here.
Yeah, for the first time. Well, you got last year's Norfolk 1 and 2, Perfect Power and Go Bears going here. The thing that puts me off Perfect Power is the fact that they did try and step up and then come back. I know that the horse is proven over the trip and has been very impressive around 6 and 7, but I just like the fact that Go Bears Go is your out and out 6 furlong horse in here, and has done nothing wrong besides a mistake when starting at Haydock last time out, which has kind of dubbed the form a little bit, but you can ignore that, I'd say, draw a line through that. And great 6 furlong form, very progressive, great Ascot form with a second and a first, sorry. And I'd be willing to side with Go Bears Go here as your true 6 furlong horse in the mix that knows his job.
I think what makes this race tough is that a lot of these horses have already took each other on as 2-year-olds, and some this season already, and they've got a lot of interlocking form. Like Perfect Power at 92, dropping back down. Obviously tried the mile, didn't work out, but very fast horse over 6. El Caballo showed this season how good his form can be, and you got Go Bears Go, and you got Eraz, who's very interesting to me. Eraz, I'm a fan of this Al Maktoum horse. At 12-1 now, he's a little skinnier than what he was. He was 33s into 16s, 25s, was knocking about, now into 12s. The money's been coming the whole time. And I think Eraz is quite interested in this race, just interlocking a lot of the form, and maybe just travelling lovely and not getting there under Crowley last time. And I think could go well, and probably each way play still, but getting skinnier as time goes on. Paul, who did you nail your colours to here?
I think for the win selection, I've gone with Carol Burke's El Caballo, who finished the Go Bears Go, albeit, as Frankie mentioned, Go Bears Go had a bit of a dirty start, stumble leaving the gates. El Caballo, 6 from 7, won that Group 2 ahead up last time out. If you look at his form, a quick glance, you think, geez, he's on the go a long time here. Like, he's been running since December, but having said that, he's only ran once in February, March, April, and May. So there still should be, although he's been on the go in that respect, you might think it quite a long time. Carl Burke knows what it takes to win a Commonwealth Cup. He's won it in the past with quiet reflection. And, the horse, I'd imagine, would just been kept ticking along between runs. So El Caballo for the win selection. At a bit of a price, I'm sticking with Wesley Ward again. I think Ruthven could run a big race at a bit of a price here. It's around about 14-1. Was disappointed when a beaten favourite in the Windsor Castle at Ascot last year. Has only had the one start since, and that was a winning one at Keeneland back in April. Quick ground again, as you know, the American horses are very much ground dependent. She's only won over 5.5 furlongs in America. We're stepping up to a stiff 6 here, so that is an obvious red flag. But I think at 14-1, if we're on good to firm ground on Friday, I think Ruthven could well outrun her odds at 14-1. But El Caballo for the win selection and Ruthven for the each way play.
Yeah, I think Ruthven was another one of Wesley Ward's special last season where he talked her up massively.
Yeah,
the horse to be on at Royal Ascot just flopped slightly, but you won't be surprised if Ruthven came back and ran a really big race. It's ground dependent massively.
Yeah, she's so sharp at 5.5. I've seen her win first time out in America before she came over last year, and she was devastating. She was quite impressive and showed a good turn of foot then. So she's so sharp that I think if any bit of even good ground, I think it'd probably be too slow for her. I think she'd need to see firm in the go description.
You see a lot of these American horses, especially like Golden Pal and Ruthven. You could say they could run like a 3 furlong, 4 furlong event, couldn't they? They're that quick. They just shoot out the gates and they go, and they almost get into the 5 furlong and they gas. But if they've got that big lead from the pace from the offset, the race could be gone, couldn't it? So yeah, 14-1, definitely a good shout if going for the race. So arguably a race that, for me, could be really good Group 1 race, but he's a Group 2. He's the King Edward VII Stakes over 1 mile 4. Very smart field going to post this season. Frankie, at this stage, who are you looking at as the value?
One that I've no idea if it will turn up here, but the Aidan O'Brien trained Cal also got an entry in the St James Place Stakes. So I think priced up at around 40-1 there, without a price at current for this, but is in the mix on the entries as an entry on Racing Post. I think I don't know what the price is yet, but some solid form. 4th behind CROUP at Newmarket over a mile, and then a 4th in a Group 1 over in France, but on very soft ground, so arguably a bit more of a staying test there, and might obviously improve for the step up to 1 mile 3, having stayed quite well on very soft ground there. It will be the horse's first run this season, and as I said, it's TBC on whether it'll run, but it's just one to flag up when decks and prices and stuff start moving to see where and what this horse looks like.
Yeah, definitely around 33 on in the market at the moment. It's a big old price at the moment. And like you say, if this does go for this race, you can see a lot of the Irish behind this horse and definitely be shorter come the off. Paul, who was your selection in this one?
There was a horse I mentioned earlier who's in the Queen's Vase on Wednesday, is Martinstown. Now, Martinstown would need to improve a lot and some more to take this, but I think wherever Martinstown goes is of interest. As I said, quicking up nicely to win a Cork debut, but a horse who, if taking his chance here, I think could well take the beating is the Roger Varian trained Eldarov, who is by Dubawi, beautiful pedigree, cost just the 480,000 sterling as a 2-year-old. Is 2 from 2, and he beat a previous winner on his last start at Newcastle last month. He looks an exciting prospect, so he's round about the 9-1 mark. Still represents a bit of value. That's the Roger Varian trained Eldarov.
Yeah, was it? I think Newcastle where it won last time. I think that was quite impressive. Yeah, obviously Ottoman Fleet, the top of the market, 9-2. Westover in there at 5-1. I don't think Westover will go. We'll go to the Irish Derby, I'd say, after its great run in the Derby at the week. Ottoman Fleet, very interesting. Fell out the stalls when seen last time out, and just stayed. Had a nice bit of fun before that with Lionel, where Lionel was third. Ottoman Fleet was second, behind another good old horse. I think Ottoman Fleet, he's a very progressive horse. 9-2, maybe have been found in the market already, but definitely one to watch throughout the season. I think he's a really, really nice horse. The final day of the meeting then brings the festival nicely to a finish, and the feature race we're going to look at on the final days, the Group 1, now Platinum Jubilee Stakes, after all the celebrations at the weekend, was the Diamond, now the Platinum. And another top race that everyone looks forward to, a bit like the Commonwealth. It's just a very, very quick affair. Paul, we'll start with you on this one. Who do you fancy?
Well, it has to be Campanelli, I think, for the win selection. Won well at Keeneland back in April. Got the Commonwealth Cup in the Stewards Room last year, but albeit ran a cracker on heavy ground to get as close to I know got carried across the track, but that was a cracking run. Before that, won the Queen Mary on good ground back in 2020. She has to be thereabouts, around about the 5-1 mark. I think Campanelli is a cracking price and has to be on the premises. Off the rest, you got Sacred in there. William Haggis has a couple of entries, won a Group 2 at Newbury last August and hasn't been seen since. You've also got Kinross. You'd imagine Kinross's chances would be greatly increased with the arrival of rain, but it's the Wesley Ward train Campanelli for me.
Yeah, I think we've started the Wesley Ward fan club here. I've got to say, out of all the horses that you mentioned for Wesley Ward, I think Campanelle is probably my favourite, just because she doesn't get the hype as the other horses, but performs all the time. You see, she's been to France. She's won on all types of ground. She's won on good. She's won on soft. She's a very versatile horse, and I think she has got a great chance. It's currently around 7-1 in the market for this one. Frankie, who did you come down on?
I'm in the Wesley Ward fan club as well. I am smiling there when Paul started because I knew where he was going, and I'm in the same boat. And like you said, James, for all that with these American horses, talk about ground and they're sharp sprinters on good ground. Campanelle's won, on varying trips, varying grounds, and has the Ascot form. So an each way price is just incredibly solid to be in the mixer.
Yeah, I completely agree. Always runs its race, and it's 7-1 at the moment. Definitely each way value. So another one we're going to look at, another one that could be a Group 1 in the past, but it's a Group 2. It's the Hardwicke Stakes. This race last year, the form of this race last year was absolutely unbelievable. See some of the horses that have come out since and gone winning, and maybe this year can have a similar effect. So no, a lot of trainers do. We have got a hot favourite at the top of the market. A bit of a steamer over the last few days into 10-11. It's Hurricane Lane, obviously superb horse last year, third in the Derby, won the Irish Derby, went over to France, went over there as well, and I think was only third in the Arc. You've got horses in there that's probably going to cut up. Bridging at 9-2, that's probably going for the other race. You've got Alarcy 8-1, Broome 10-1, Yabir 10-1, Third Realm 10-1, then horse like Tiona and Pole Driver also in there about 12s. Frankie, we'll start with you on this one. Is it Hurricanes Lane just to go and win first time out?
A bit short for me. I'm looking at 4-5 now.
Okay.
Obviously, top, the classiest horse in the race, albeit most of what you see is 1 mile 4, 1 mile 6. But 4-5, when there's some real good horses in here, I'd be looking at the other Godolphin horse, Yabir, at 10-1. would probably be my angle. A bit more racing being done down towards the 1 mile 2s and 1 mile 3s. Very, very consistent. Again, it's kind of that angle that 10 to 1 seems to be not a safe bet, but I'd definitely take my chance at you beer to place at 10s rather than Hurricane Lane to win at 4 to 5. So yeah, I mean, just a consistent performer all around the globe. Does want the good ground, but as we're hoping for Sunday next week at Ascot, probably we'll be looking at good ground by Saturday. So yeah, your beer would be where I'd have an each way play, if any.
Yeah, you just wonder with this race, don't you? Obviously, like we were talking before, you got Hurricane Lane that's steamed in, and your beer obviously from the same yard, same connections. Does the 10 make you think that they might just stick Hurricane Lane and they're happy with Hurricane Lane? And that's the only thing with that. And I can see this race cutting up. I really can. Broom's been a bit of a mover into 10 to 1. Solid horse for Aidan O'Brien. Paul, where did you stand on this one?
I can't get past Hurricane Lane. I think his form's been absolutely solid, and I think it's a case that if he trains on, he bolts up here. You know, I think if you fancy something, a horse at bigger prices, fair enough. You're looking for an each way play for win selection. A race that I'd be getting involved in at the moment, but of what we know, I think if he's trained on, Hurricane Lane bolts up.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I wouldn't get involved with this. I wouldn't know what's going on, but he might just be a bit. He's still that 10 to 11, even though like an odds-on shot. Some horses, big horses that are at the top of the market, come out by the time of the race, and obviously they've already raced throughout the week, or they're saving for later on down the year. He might just be a bit of value there at 10 to 11, and I think the punters have caught onto him a bit over the last few days. So the final event we're going to cover on this Ante-Post preview is the Group 3 Jersey Stakes, a race I'm quite fond of every year on the Saturday, and it looks to be one of the smallest fields already that we're going to cover over this next hour or so. But Noble Truth at the top of the market, 3 to 1. New Science, 3 to 1. Perfect Power, 5 to 1. Probably going elsewhere. Alflaila, good horse at 6 to 1. Lusail, 8 to 1. And then Mighty Ulysses, 10 to 1. And 10 to 1 bar the rest. Paul, we'll start with you here. Quite a nice event. Who did you go for?
I suppose the top two, it's hard to look, well, at the minute, to look elsewhere. I know Mighty Ulysses got a favourable mention on a previous podcast, previous recording, was a beaten favourite, only just got headed at Haydock inside the last half a furlong or so. So he has to be in the mix once again, you'd imagine. Noble Truth looked good in a listed event at Newmarket last time out, as did New Science. New Science has a tendency to race a bit keen. So I think of it a small field. If the race does cut up and we get a relatively small field, I think that'll help New Science's cause. But tentative selection would be for Noble Truth at the minute.
Okay, and Frankie, who are you going for?
New Science. So the other Bulls. So one of the two, hopefully. Got the Ascot form over 7 furlongs, winning there. Went off favourite for a group race over 7, slightly short of room and unlucky that day. Didn't perform over the mile in Dubai, and then, as Paul said, performed well enough at Newmarket to 7 furlongs. So a consistent 7 furlong performer. New Science I'd be siding with.
Okay, so Godolphin winner, but just which one in that case? So lads, top stuff. We've covered all 5 days there. We haven't covered every race, but I think we'd be here all day if we covered every race. We've covered the main races across the 5 days. So what I want from you now, as we do every week, I would like your nap, please, for the Royal Ascot Festival. I think we normally go Paul first, so I'll go Frankie this time. You can go first.
Thank God for that. Golden Pal. Because I know that's where Paul might be going.
Yeah.
Stop the price. I think 2 to 1's the full price if you want to have an Ante-Post bet and get in there early. Yeah, Golden Pal, I think at 2s is a cracker.
Yeah, with Golden Pal, you know, going for the race, running in similar conditions before Ascot, you just know what you're going to get, really, don't you? Just pure speed, and if it lasts, it wins at 2 to 1. Paul, your nap, please.
I'm going to stick with Wesley Ward and with Campanelli.
Okay.
I think he has to be thereabouts, regardless if 5-7 to 1 is a bit of each way value. Let the punter decide that, but I can't see Campanelli being out of the first 3.
Okay, yeah, solid selection. And I'm going to round off with Baybridge in the Prince of Wales Stakes, currently around 11 to 8. I think if you can get anything above even money, I think that's a great price. I think it'll be odds on by the time the race starts. And just the way it put Mossadaf away at Sandown in the Brigadier Gerard last time was freakish for me. And I think Baybridge got a really, really good chance. So, lads, thanks again. We'll obviously have more chat and we'll have more stuff over social media about Royal Ascot now, just a week away. But thanks for all the selections. And please be sure to like this video and subscribe with, like I said, more stuff coming over the next week or so to do with Royal Ascot. So cheers again, lads.
Cheers, James.